fallout, smoke, women crying for their sons because their sons are not, Romans killing riotous groups that are rising up. Free Judea, free our people, autonomy for Israel. You had Herod, an Edomite, and his dynasty. Herod's ruling, killing any potential threat, any potential Messiah. Then you had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, that we learn from Josephus are not Jews by birth. No.
Brothers and sisters, they are there. We are not lost. We are scattered. We are original Hebrew.
Let's go! All praises be to the Most High God. Yeah, I say it.
I was opportune to meet my grandparents, whom from childhood had always made us to understand that we are one of the lost tribes of Israel. Okay. So from my grandmother.
Right. Now look at these. Yeah, I'm telling you, I gotta show y'all. A picture speaks 1,000 words. Just look for yourself. And this is the creme de la creme. All praises be to the Most High, y'all. Everything we've been through, y'all, the Most High is going to retribute it on all the nations that have had a hand in the oppression of his apple, the apple of his eye, his chosen people, his beloved, his fervent lover, his only begotten. They're going to have their part in the lake of fire. You see them tormented by some kind of creature. I don't even know what that even is, y'all. Judgment in chains. He that led into captivity shall go into captivity. All praise to the Most High, y'all. What's up, Zion Dynasty? This is your favorite dreaded Israelite, the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. JV Zion. You already know what to do. Show me some love. Show me some love. Your boy is back in the flesh.
I'm about to hit y'all with another
banger. All glory, honor, dominion, power, majesty, world without end, to the mighty one of Jacob, the holy one of Israel, the redeemer of the 12 tribes, and the resurrector of the dry bones of Ezekiel. We're living in the greatest awakening in human history. Let's go! Yoruba B'nai Ephraim of the tribe of Joseph. And first I want to send peace, love, blessings, and Israelite power to all my Israelite kings and queens, all my Israelite brothers and sisters. We could not do this without y'all. Y'all mean everything to us, but not just y'all. All of our Gentile sojourners with Israel, those that are not lost in the Goon Squad sauce of madness.
in the Goon Squad sauce.
Those that ain't following these urban apologist Christian junkies, right, that went off to the cemetery, I mean the seminary school, to learn.
To be able to learn absolutely diddly squat. Well, you know, Israel don't worry, whosoever will, let them come.
Absolutely nothing, right? Peace, love, and blessings to each and every one of y'all. We love y'all from the bottom of our heart. Y'all, this is gonna be a big one. This is gonna be a treat, and if y'all like this format, we're about to experiment it with this whole movie review. So, first of all, if y'all already know what to do, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you want to donate, I'm gonna put that Cash App up on the screen. Also, in the description is our P.O. box. We're getting a lot of stuff set up with the channel, y'all. Because it's growing exponentially, we're still trying to, organize everything. But the P.O. box is set up if you guys want to send donations that way. But if you guys feel more comfortable sending things in, we have that P.O. box in the description. If you want to use Cash App, you can. We're going to have that on the screen. So y'all, in this one, this is going to be an experimental format. This is going to be the combination of a teaching lesson, a movie review, and we're just going to kind of talk. We're going to think together as a family, right? Because there is a strong consensus, well, there's a strong train of thought within the Israelite community in terms of what should we do. We know we're Israel. Y'all know by the channel we drop receipts. We've gone through the archaeology. We've gone through the DNA, the oral tradition verified by Cambridge. We've looked at Harvard level professors like Professor Tudor Parfit, Oxford level professors such as Edith Bruder. We have all of this evidence to prove in fact that the so-called black two-continent slap together like a lonely sandwich that we are in fact the descendants of the West and Sub-Saharan tribes, the Bantu-speaking people that actually have an oral tradition and are verified and are linked by prophecy to have descended from the land of Israel. So we've got all those receipts, we've done all that history. But there's a lot in terms of different trains of thought within the Israelite community. Some people are Old Testament only. You got those brothers. Then you got the New Testament, just believers that believe in Yeshua as the Mashiach. And there's a lot going on, right? So we're going to have a conversation, family. And we're going to use the movie Get Out and Us. And we're going to do a breakdown of that movie. And we're going to examine how art imitates life and how there are so many nuggets in this movie. If you guys have not seen the movie Get Out, I 1000% recommend it. It causes us as the diaspora, these African Israelite people, it causes us to think, right? Think about American culture. Think about the mark of the beast. Now, I done already told y'all, we set the stage by dealing with the mark of the beast being linked to Christianity, Roman Catholicism. Some brothers call it Sunday worship. I guess you can call it that, but it's bigger than just the tenets of the Council of Nicaea. But the mark itself is white supremacy, right? This white image of Yeshua, this person that never existed, a white Jesus, right? This white Jesus-led Christianity that's not linked to the scriptures, that causes us in our subconscious to be dependent on white people and to think like slaves, that this is the mark of the beast, that are the ancient apostles during the first century church, Apostle John, Apostle Paul, all of them prophesied that Rome would reinvigorate itself through the Renaissance of the 10 market companies led by America, NATO, this European Union, using the mascot of white Jesus, that would be the institutionalized bondage that will be in the minds of all those that our names are not written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Now understand, when the scripture says that, this is not saying that our people didn't come out of that. Those that are in the awakening, we come out of the Christian church, we come out of that madness, right? But there are some of our brothers and sisters that enjoy that foolishness, and we just got to pray for them, y'all, that they wake them up. So in the movie Get Out, there's a lot of theories that are tested out, right? Now, it's so many nuggets I could drop. But first, to start things off, I'm going to go ahead and hit the ball rolling. Y'all like, comment, share, subscribe. This is going to be an epic movie review. We're going to look at Get Out and Us, and we're going to connect that to the Back to Africa theory, and we're going to talk about it as a family. I'm going to drop some precepts, and we're going to look at this thing about what should Zion do. Should we make the promised land? Should we show that faith like Joshua did, where he walked towards the waters, then it was split? Or should we just sit in America and just pray that the Most High just does all the work and we don't have to do anything? I'm just trying to get y'all brains thinking. So I'm going to show y'all a clip that does a masterful job at giving you a summary of the movie Get Out. And I'm going to keep showing clips throughout, but we're just going to talk, y'all. So let's get the ball rolling. I hope y'all like it. Let's go.
Okay, so if you haven't seen the film and are watching this video for whatever reason, I'll give you a quick overview of the plot. We follow Chris, a young photographer who goes to visit his girlfriend Rose Armitage's family. Upon arriving there, strange things begin to happen, and he unearths that the Armitages have developed a procedure in which they can transfer the minds of people into shell bodies. Chris is the next target, and he is auctioned off to the highest bidder and hypnotized into being submissive. However, he manages to escape before they can carry out the procedure, and he kills the family, ending the film.
So y'all, I do not want to spoil it. We're going to slow walk through the movie for those that have not seen it. But based on that description, you kind of get a feel of what's going on. The protagonist, Chris, this black brother, is dating this woman, a European white young lady. I forget her first name, but she's an Armitage. That's their family name. And all she does is run game. She is a feeder. She is this shiny lure that deceives black brothers, and that she pretends like she's dating them just to take them back to her family's house, where they've developed a procedure for white people to live forever through black people, through these black bodies. They have a procedure, some kind of lobotomy, I don't know, some kind of scientific procedure where they do brain surgery and can put the souls of white people into the souls of black people. Y'all, there is so much in this. We talked about the mark of the beast. We talked about Esau being the last ruling empire before the coming kingdom of Yeshua. Now, Edom and Esau, we know were red. The first child going all the way back to Genesis 25. Esau came out red, right? We know that Esau's grandson Zepho, according to the book of Jasher that was taken out of the Bibles, he migrated to modern Tubal, Greece, that Europe region, and he became a god for those people because he conquered the king of Africa, King Angeus. Y'all read that and check out those videos about Zepho, right? And he became the Roman people, the father of the Roman Empire. Now, fast forward. The modern Roman people during the time of Yeshua, these would have been European, ancient Greco-Roman people. They would have been European by nationality, and we know through the scriptures that this European, Edomite, right, Roman people would be the last ruling empire before the coming of Yeshua. We looked at Daniel's statue and we said that the 4 beasts that Daniel saw in Daniel chapter 7 is the same as Daniel's statue. That those iron legs and the iron mixed with clay toes is in actuality the Roman Empire of antiquity and the rebirth of the Roman Empire getting into American policy, the European nations that revived or brought a renaissance to Roman culture and also are the descendants and the offshoots of the Roman people. Why do I bring all this up? You have this Armitish girl that serves as this whore, that's what I'm gonna call it, y'all, because she serves this thought basically, because she's luring all these black men together. She's acting like she loves them and saying, I want you to meet my family and that kind of thing, just to feed them to the dragon. And the dragon takes their souls out of their head. Now, y'all, we talked about the mark of the beast. Y'all gotta understand. And the white person lives in their head. Now, I'm not gonna go too deep into it. We're just gonna slow walk this thing. But now we're gonna watch a clip where how did this start? Now, Chris had a friend, this guy, I forget the guy's name. You're gonna see it in the clip. But he came up missing and they didn't know what happened to this brother. And he was one of the first that people that Chris would have known that had been abducted by these white people and had this procedure done to him. So we're gonna look at that clip.
That's a brief overview, but it's just to get you up to speed before the breakdown. Now, the movie opens with Andre Hayworth walking through a suburban area at night whilst he's on the phone to his girlfriend. Andre becomes a prominent figure later in the film, and we learn that he was actually subjected to the same procedure that Chris narrowly escapes from. A car drives by him and it begins to intimidate him before abducting him. Now, there are a couple of things to take from this scene. Firstly, Rose is clearly on the phone to him, and this is how the car is able to track him. The person on the phone says, "Stay put, we'll come and get you," to which Andre replies with, "There's no need." He gives his location and then they show up. Andre got lost looking for Peacock Avenue, and it is likely that these directions were fake. Peacocking is a term that is often used to describe a male trying to attract a mate, but here it could be twisted round to Rose attracting Andre to this spot so that Jeremy can abduct him. The film is about taking messages and subverting them, and I definitely think that this holds a double meaning here. Another interesting aspect is that the car that Jeremy drives is white on the outside and black on the inside. This is of course a nod to the fact that black people are later sent to the sunken place whilst a white person inhabits their shell. From here,
y'all, this stuff is crazy. Now, we're gonna later see that in the movie, Chris has an encounter with this brother at this auction they have going on. All the white folks wearing red, which is like a tease to the conservative Republican Party. And then you got Chris and this brother that got blue on. That's a subtle reference. But basically, he runs into this brother and this brother doesn't seem like himself. Now, we're gonna get into what combats the mark of the beast. Now, I done already told y'all gotta check those videos out. How the mark of the beast is a mindset of white Jesus and that indoctrination of white people living in black people's minds. Y'all, this is an invention. The way our people say, oh, you know, color don't matter, you know, race don't matter, Israel done away with. No animal with self-preservation, y'all gotta hear me, no animal with a sense of self-preservation thinks of other people before one's needs are met. I just gotta tell y'all, we are the only people that think it is godlike to give to others when we don't have. Well, you know, if you giving to other people, God will always make sure. Don't get it twisted. A lot of our people think that God's saying this stuff and he's not. The scripture says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you don't love yourself first, you don't have it in your bank account. It's like swiping a credit card, right? You don't have the money in your bank, you're just charging it to the credit card, or swiping a debit card when you don't have money in the bank. You first have to be able to receive. Loving oneself is not a bad thing. Our people have to think like that. Knowing your history, knowing that we come from African tribes like the Igbo and the Yoruba that are actually Israelite tribes. Knowing your history and taking pride in that thing is not wickedness, but our people are taught through white supremacist indoctrination, white supremacy, white Jesus, the Roman Catholic Church, the COINTELPRO, Council of Nicaea, lost in the sauce madness, right? We are taught that we're not supposed to love ourselves, but we're supposed to, oh, yo, don't focus on yourself. You know, our history, you know, that's black, that's a hate speech. No, don't do no black power, none of that stuff. When our people are gunned down on the streets, don't have food to eat, are suffering from low socioeconomic status, are suffering at the bottom of society, health issues and the like, we're still saying, well, we don't need to look at that. That's the mark of the beast in our minds. Not just that, but Paul in the New Testament says that the leader of God, the bishop or the pastor, should first be faithful to his own flock. That if a person is trying to lead the flock of God and his own family is not in order, y'all got to hear me, he's worse than an infidel or a robber. That means if you don't have it, you can't give it. And our people have been suffering for so long that black people should be the #1 priority. I know I'm preaching, but I got to deal with this. Every now and then you see these commercials about the endangered species and help save the tiger. Are they saying that other lives don't matter? No, but this is an endangered species, and if you love humanity, we need to focus on this crisis right here before we move on to other issues. This is a crisis. That's what black issues are. That's what Israelite issues are. So all the urban apologists and all this madness that the white folks are trying to play defense. Oh, we got to stop these Negroes. They're waking up. They're reading books. We got to do something. All of this is just to keep our people locked in the society structure of black people being the haves or the have-nots and white people maintaining their rulership, enjoying life, ruling the earth, not having to worry about it, stress and work 5 to 6 different jobs, right? They want to keep us in that socioeconomic bracket to be able to maintain the privilege for other white folks. I just got to tell y'all. So now, y'all, we're going to look at the next clip. We're going to go through these clips and we're going to see how the awakening is the only thing that can protect one's mind, being sealed, knowing the Most High, knowing the Father's name, knowing who you are, knowing your history, protects your mind from the onslaught of American white supremacy. Let's look at that.
From here we cut to the title scene, which has blue writing over the top of a forest, which is intentionally meant to be a nod to The Shining, which is one of Peele's favourite films. After the brief credits sequence, we can hear the song Redbone by Childish Gambino. Not only is it a banger, it also has some elements of the song that play out here which foreshadow the rest of the film. The parts that we hear contain the following lyrics from the song: "But stay woke," as in don't go to sleep, Chris. "They gon' find you, gon' catch you sleeping," as in don't go to sleep, Chris, I'm telling you. And the chorus ends with "now don't close your eyes," again highlighting this point. I think I've officially got my street pass now for using the word "gone." Now, as we tour his apartment, we can see a white child wearing a dog mask and peering out from behind it. This once more is a reference to the white people wearing black people as a mask in the film. Upon Rose arriving there, we can see a chain that looks slightly like an unlocked slave handcuff. And though I may be reading into this, I think it highlights that Chris eventually ends up free from the family after almost becoming their slave. Rose sits about with the dog and then puts it down, saying that she has to pry something out of its dad. This is possibly referring to his brain, which they try and pry out at the end of the movie.
Now, family, I'm telling y'all, this stuff gets heavier and heavier. We're gonna slow walk this thing. I could say a lot of stuff about the movie, but I know a lot of y'all may not have seen it, right? But basically, we're starting to see that. So this chick that's already, now Chris doesn't know that she's running manipulation. She's running a game. This chick represents America. Now, we talked about the harlot and the daughter of Babylon in the Mystery Babylon video. Y'all check that out. But basically, America gets her power from the dragon, which you can connect to Satan, the synagogue of Satan, Rothschild funding of America and these countries, right through the Federal Reserve. There's so many layers to the scriptures, y'all. But basically, this woman gets her power from the dragon, this harlot, right? And all she does is deceive the masses, keep them at the bottom to do the will of Satan. So now you see this girl, all she doing is running game, getting all these black brothers, taking them to her parents' house, and they cracking these brothers' skulls open, and they pitting white people that they auction them off. Y'all, this stuff is crazy. Because when you look at Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire, they had slaves of our people back then. Now y'all understand. And America picked up by taking us from the west coast of Africa to the Americas and throughout the four corners of the earth, right? But not just that. This is a new Roman Empire under America. They have evolved from the ancient chattel slavery that our people were once in. Now it's mental. Now it's through Facebook and social media and having our people just get caught up in all these distractions while they whoop-de-whoop, they got something behind their hand and they dangling a toy in front of your face, and you just, whoa, our people caught up and just hating one another, and I gotta get mine and all this stuff, while America is playing you, and behind the scenes they're maintaining their power structure. So you have this Armitage girl, her whole role is to pull the wool over Chris's eyes to get her to her parents' house, and then they just put that brother to sleep, and they take his body, they take his gifting, they take everything that he brings to the table, his anointing. Satan uses that as an armor bearer to protect himself from the judgment of the father of the Israelites, because he uses us as a shield. He said, you can't get me because I'm using them. And this is where these Jewish agents that come in of the record labels and all this stuff, they stay close to black people. They watch our culture. When you look at the NBA, it's 80 to 90% brothers, but none of us own these teams. Y'all gotta hear me. They use our gifting, use our influence, use our ability, and they hide behind it, and they make money off of it, and they prolong their empire. That's what this Armitage family, let's look at the next clip.
Here they talk about her family and the line, my dad would have voted for Obama a third time if he could have. This line appears again later in the film, and it could show that a lot of things that the Armitages talk about are scripted because they've went through the process numerous times. On a side note, I would have voted for Obama a third time if I could have, so thumbs up, the thumbs up button's right there. Now this idea of voting for Obama is contested later in the movie at the party when we see that all of the guests wear something with red on it. This is except for Chris and Andre. They both wear blue, so it could represent Democrats versus Republicans, as these are the colors that both parties tend to don. I don't know much about American politics, but if I did, I would have voted for, never mind. The pair hit a deer out on the road, and this almost causes a car crash. The deer lies by the side of the road dying, and this reminds Chris of the death of his mother, which we'll get into in just a bit. Now Chris actually seems distraught over this, whereas Rose doesn't really care, showing her disregard for life. A police officer arrives and asks for their ID, and Rose gets angry that Chris's ID is asked for too, and she kicks up a fuss with the policeman. We know from what happens in the movie that Rose actually argued over this because should Chris be listed as missing, the officer may remember his name and the car that he was riding in. The license plate would too lead back to Rose and the Armitages, and thus she talks him down from checking out who Chris is.
So family, it's a lot. I might have to do a follow-up for the us part, but we're gonna see if I can cover this get out and then get into the us part to connect get out and us. But y'all see how white folks love to say, you know, I would have voted for Obama a third term, and they act like they love people. But in that clip we saw that Chris, when the deer is hit, he has a certain empathy towards the oppressed that white folks don't have. I'm telling y'all, they are the synagogue of Satan. Not each and every one of y'all, and we know it's not a skin doctrine, but it's a lineage of Satan. Don't get me wrong. There's a specific lineage in the earth. When you talk about the Rothschilds and the Ish people and some of these European people that descend from a family that is heartless, that is just like their father, like Christ told them Pharisee Edomites. He said, you are of your father the devil, who was a liar from the beginning. Christ already knew that there was a wicked family, even during his time, y'all gotta hear me, that they just don't empathize. It's like trying to charm with a serpent. We could talk about how, man, we are oppressed. Y'all didn't give us any reparations. Y'all didn't send us back to our country. You didn't try to help all this wickedness. You know, they were testing on us and the Tuskegee syphilis study, and they're doing all this stuff, putting drugs in the community and causing us to kill one another. And y'all know our history. You know we're the chosen people. How can you watch a people not know their greatness, but destroy each other, destroy themselves, and you don't say a word? They don't have that kind of empathy, y'all. I'm telling you now, not each and every one of them. We have a lot of supportive Gentiles on the family, in the channel, right? But there are a lot, and I'm talking about the upper percentage, that do not care about the suffering of humanity, that say they love all people but watch our people suffer, and then they say, well, you know, I voted for Obama, and you know, I got a black friend, and I got a black second cousin twice removed on this side, you know, I'm with the cause, you know, but they're not really. When it push come to shove, when our people are getting gunned down, you don't see these people, or you see them a little bit just to say, well, see, white people are helping, it's like one or two of them, and that kind of thing. And even then, they want to run things, they want to come in and tell the leaders how to do things. They never want to equip our people, understand, with the empowerment that we need to be able to be self-sufficient and govern ourselves. Let's look at the next clip.
They arrive at the house and there are 2 Omega symbols outside of it. According to Google, Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet, but most of the time in English, Omega is used as a symbol of the last, best, or final nature of something. So it could show that this is the end for Chris, and that the Armitages ultimately view possessing African Americans as the best thing to do for their final nature. I've not really seen anyone pick up on this one either, but it could also be a reference to American colleges, which sometimes have Omega in their house names. Colleges are also a sign of privilege, and this might be a reach, but it could signify their eliteness. Anyway, there's a ton of things outside the house and inside the house that foreshadow how the family view themselves, and they drop a couple of lines to show their ulterior motives. Dean goes off on a rant about how he hates deers and bucks, and after researching this speech on Reddit, I discovered that a black buck was a term used for black men who refused to bow to white authority, and this adds a lot of weight to the conversation. Dean gives a tour of the house and points out his family photo, which contains an image of his mother and father. The servants are nowhere to be seen in this, and we later learn that both of his parents were put into their bodies. The fact that the servants are missing, yet Dean states that they are so dear to the family, hints that they never actually existed as part of their household. Chris passes Rose sitting in front of a globe that has been turned to show Africa, showcasing that she views herself as being ahead of the continent. They also pass the statue of a wooden deer head, showing that Dean doesn't really hate them, as he has their form as an ornament and therefore was lying. He is of course stabbed with a deer head later in the movie, showcasing the reversal of the black book comment. Dean also brings up a photo of his father, who we learn was beaten by Jesse Owens in the qualifying round for the Olympics. We learn that he didn't really get over it, and it can be gathered from this conversation that this was the event that made his father believe that African Americans were superior. We later see Walter running at night, and this is likely because he's still obsessed with his loss. He wears a cap to hide his operations scar across his forehead, and the other people who've also had operations carry this out too. This includes Andre, who is now Logan, and he wears a hat, and Georgina is seen fixing her hair in a reflection, and this too could be to hide her scar. When Chris is out and about, he also sees her in a room adjusting her hairline again, bringing attention to this. Dean points to the basement and says, "Don't go down there, there's black mold." Later in the film, we learn that this is where the lab is kept. So this could actually be a double entendre, and he may mean that there is a black mold kept down there, as in a mold for another body. We are introduced to Georgina, and Dean says that his mother loved her kitchen and he keeps a piece of her in there. He never says what that piece is, but as we learn, Georgina is his mother, and therefore this line holds an alternate meaning. At the time,
okay, family, there is a lot in this. So you got this head synagogue of Satan dragging man, the father of the Armitage family, and he's taking them around the house. And he says, you know, we got this deer outbreak and this kind of thing. These bucks, we can't control them, right? Now that's a subtle reference to what our people were called bucks back during. A lot of our older elders can attest to this, right? That was a byword for black men, right? Black men that bucked against the system. Black men that said, I'm proud of my history. You know, they call me that all the time at work. Oh, these y'all too radical, y'all too loud. Got your kufis on and got your beards out and y'all Israel and that kind of thing. Man, you know, you got to play the game, man. You can't be all flamboyant like that. You got Negroes that think just passive and just, you know, y'all don't get me started. No change has ever come without somebody stepping out in faith. If you think that fear is the answer, that being ashamed of who you are, being ashamed of your history, that the Most High gonna work with you, you saw what he did with Gideon. He took 300 that got down on their knees, got gritty, and was drinking that water, right? He said, tell the other ones to go home. All the ones that's faithful-hearted and double-hearted and stiff-necked, tell them to go home because I need lions. Let's go. I need men that ain't afraid. I need Israelite army of generals and kings that will stand. And I ain't talking about going out there killing white folks. I'm talking about being proud in your mind of who you are, being unapologetic about that thing, standing for your community, right? So you got this Armitage guy talking about we got a book outbreak, and it's crazy because we're gonna see what happens to him in the end when I show that clip. And he also says don't go down there in the basement. We got a lot of black molds. Now this is a double entendre as y'all saw in the clip, because it not only represents the mold, but it represents black people, but also it represents the black molds of the bodies. They keep our shells. They keep us physically strong but mentally weak. That goes back to the Willie Lynch letter. Y'all check that video out, right? Where they want to use us, our DNA that comes from the Most High, our sacred lineage that makes up. So when people tell you race don't matter, everybody knows that matters. Our people have a certain gifting. Music, when you look at musicians and Michael Jackson, y'all don't even get me started, athletes and this kind of thing. The way we think, they want to keep that, but they want to be living inside you. That's the mark of the beast, y'all. That is, y'all check that video out. White Jesus. I'm telling you, white Jesus is the root of that mindset. Now let's look at the next clip.
At the table, Missy asks about Chris's mother, who we know died in a hit and run. She clinks her spoon against her glass as he does it, which sets off the idea of Chris's mother being connected to this. It's the first use of suggestion in the movie, but this clink also breaks Georgina out of her hypnosis for a second, and thus she is able to gain control slightly. She spills the drink, and it just gives away that something's not quite right with the character. Now shoutouts for Mr. Sharkpants on Reddit for discovering this, as I didn't notice it, but hats off. There's a sign of Georgina viewing Chris as less than they are, as she refills the Armitage's glasses first, even though Chris's is empty and theirs aren't. Silver spoons are important as they are used as a way to control Chris, but they of course carry with them the meaning of a silver spoon, which is a sign of privilege. Jeremy is introduced and he talks about MMA pretty quickly, almost seeming to guide the conversation towards it. He tries to grab Chris and remarks on how well he would do if he competed. This could hint at the fact that he wishes to take his body from him and use it as a way to become a sports star. After the awkward moment, Rose brushes her teeth in her ensuite next to a poster that says Death Cheater, which refers to how the family want to cheat death. Chris takes a trip outside before being hypnotized by Missy. We learn about Chris's mother's death in full and how when she died he was at home watching the TV. He said he did nothing whilst this happened and he just sat there. He was a passenger that wasn't able to save her, and we see in the sunken place that he too is adrift, unable to really move, whilst he watches the events play out before his eyes on a TV screen. As a child he scratched his bed, and as an adult he scratches at the chair arms, which eventually saves his life. Chris awakens to find his phone has been unplugged from its charger, and Georgina did this to make sure that it ran out of battery. When Chris talks to her, we can also see a sign beside his head that says Chris is dead. Come on man, they were telling you, get out! We meet Walter outside and hey, seems like a nice guy. How do fellow kids? He of course uses outdated slang like a real doggone keeper that highlights he grew up in another time period. When the guests arrive, they all show up in black cars, perhaps suggesting that they wish to be in a black vehicle. They hug Walter, showing that he's more than just a gardener, and many of them talk and ask questions based around things that they're interested in. An ex-golfer asks Chris if he's ever played golf, a woman asks if black men are better in bed whilst her wheelchair-bound husband sits beside her, and Jim Hudson, a blind art dealer, clearly wants him for his eyes. Rose and Chris also wear clothing that looks like they represent an American flag, and altogether there's just a weird vibe about the entire thing. I say that because we mustn't let black people know that we do this every weekend. Keep that secret, yeah? It's here that we meet Logan, aka Andre from the start, and he has no idea what a fist bump is, which reminds me of all the times I went in for the shake and got the bump. Sometimes you just don't know. Logan is with a woman much older than he is, and this was obviously his wife before the operation. He's then paraded about and made to spin around, showing that it was a success. Chris takes a picture of Logan, and this triggers him into shouting, "Get out." Hey, you missed that one, didn't you? Chris is sure that he met him before, and we learn from his friend Rod that he had. At this point they hold the auction for him, and this is very reminiscent of slave auctions of old. Jim wins and Jeremy looks angry, and I guess you'll have to find another way to compete in MMA, chum. Rose promises to take Chris home, but it's all a ruse to buy more time, and Chris finds photographs of all her exes. These later appear behind her on the wall above her bed. During this scene, Rose also eats cereal with the milk separate. This shows the separation of whiteness from a mix of colours, highlighting the views of the family. Everything goes crazy and Chris is knocked out and shackled, bringing up the imagery of slavery. He manages to pick cotton out of the chair, which he stuffs into his ears, symbolizing cotton picking, which slaves were often forced to do. Now it's during this that we cut to Rod, who is trying to get into contact with him. We can hear an announcement for Flight 237, which, yep, you guessed it, is another Shining reference. In the room that Chris is bound in, I did kinda get more Shining vibes from it too. The layout is very symmetrical, and that is quite a large characteristic of the set design in that film. The television set also resembles the television set from The Shining 2, as we can't really see the cable for it, and it's somehow turned on and playing. Chris has played a video that explains everything, and we can hear the slogan, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste." This was a slogan for the United Negro College Fund, highlighting the family taking black ideals and subverting them. Jim's brain is cut open, and I know that brain ops tend to look like this, but to me it also resembles an egg, a symbol of birth, perhaps hinting at the rebirth process that he's about to go through. Chris breaks free and beats Jeremy with a croquet ball, which is meant to mirror how he attacked him with a croquet bat earlier in the film. Dean is impaled with the deer head, and Jim is left paralyzed as the fire begins, commenting on the same immobility that he wished to place upon Chris. Chris kills Missy and grapples with Jeremy at the door, similar to an MMA fight almost, and I guess Chris would be good at it. He even escapes a sleeper hold. Well done. Chris gets into the car, finds Jeremy's night helmet, possibly being a symbol of the Crusaders, and the radio plays Run Rabbit Run, which was present during the abduction of Andre. Chris hits Georgina and takes her in the car. She lashes out at him and he crashes by the side of the road whilst Rose and her grandpa try and chase him down. Chris flashes his phone camera, which we saw worked on Andre, and he snaps out of it and then shoots Rose before killing himself. Rose apologizes to Chris as he strangles her, but he stops when he realizes that she's taking pleasure in it. The flashing lights of police then show, and Rose reaches out to them. In the alternate ending, this was going to be the police, and they would arrest Chris for killing the family, showing police prejudice, but in the end, Peele opted for it being Rod in his TSA vehicle. He did tell him not to go in the house, to be fair. The same song from the title plays, and this is an ancient song that, when translated, says to run. That ends the film, and that's pretty much all of the details in the movie.
So basically, we got a clear image of the movie through that clip. All praises be to the Most High. There is so much. We see how it ends. We see that God's people, the Most High, Yah's chosen, are faithful, that they overcome in the end. And I love the way they showed the house. When Chris arrives to the house, I didn't mention this, but there are Omega symbols on the house. See, Yeshua says, I am Alpha and Omega. Let's go. Y'all understand? The Omega represents Esau being the end. And right when Esau comes to an end, right when the Most High Yah brings judgment against all these nations, that's when we got next. That's when Jacob got next, right? So Esau, we even seeing that they're teasing the fact that they know that this is the last ruling empire. The last tactic that they have left is not the physical change, but to keep our people mentally destroyed, to keep our people to not be willing to stand for their heritage, to keep our people defending a lie, defending white Jesus, and thinking that it's wrong, thinking that it's robbery to be declared as the sons of the living God, to be the sons of Israel, the descendants of the chosen people of the Most High, to keep our people thinking, no, I can't think like that. You're mentally shackled. There is nothing that holds you back. And I bring all this up, y'all, because when we look at our people going to the promised land, it's not as clear cut as what y'all think. Now, family, this is where we're going to have that talk a little bit. Now, we understand that the Most High Yah is going to get his people back to the land. Now, when we say the land, we're talking about Israel being the heartbeat, Jerusalem being the foundation of the promised land, right? But not just that, family. When we say the promised land, y'all check out that Africa is the promised land video. You can say the continent of Africa is the promised land. In that clip, we saw the synagogue of Satan, the daughter of Babylon, standing in front of the African continent on the globe that was behind her. This represents that ancient angel. This represents Satan, the spirit that seeks to guard the promised land and keep our people from getting back there. We talked about Zepho. We talked about Esau. How when Joseph and the brothers were seeking to bury Jacob's body in the land of Canaan, that Esau met him. And Esau stood at the entrance of Canaan and said, you will not bury Jacob here. You will not house your history here. You will not remember Yeshua and come here and act like you got a claim to this land. Because the bones of Jacob, y'all got to understand, represented Joseph and them saying, we're paying homage to this land. Our father paid for this land. He paid for us to have the right to go back to this land. And you have Satan. You have his synagogue, his family, Esau, standing at the gates. So you have today white people trying to get our people's minds from thinking of going back to Africa. So when y'all understand. So when we talk about, should we go back to Africa, man? Should we leave, JB? There is a lot of layers to the conversation, but it begins and ends in your mind. Understand what I'm saying? At any moment, the children of Israel could have went to the promised land. Now think about this, y'all. I don't want to lose y'all. At any moment, they could have went back to the promised land. They could have left. The Bible says that it was an 11 days journey. But it turned into a 40-year journey. Why? It was a mindset. Now y'all gotta stay with me. I'm gonna chop this thing up on every side. Well, JB, you know, we're supposed to wait on Yeshua. You know, the Most High is gonna take his people back to the land. Absolutely. I 100% agree that when the Most High unites us out of the diaspora and leads a mighty army of us back to Africa, that's gonna be a glorious event. But understand that our minds are key to how he does that thing. Because a lot of our people think that for the Most High to do something, that means he comes down, grabs us by the hand, and takes us back. Now, y'all, I'm gonna toss this up from various scenarios. Y'all don't come for your boy. We're gonna take this from different angles. Okay. Now, we see in Revelation 18:4 that the Bible says, "Come ye out of her, my people." Now, when you look at the movie Get Out, now Get Out and Us are both written by Jordan Peele. He said this is a part of a 4-part saga that he wants to do. When you look at Get Out, Us. Now, I'm going to show y'all a clip about Us, and we're going to see what happens in that second part of the movie. Y'all just be thinking about the promised land. Think about Africa. Think about us going back to the land. Just had that thinking. Now, we're going to look at that second part. We're going to look at the movie Us and see, does the plot get even deeper? Let's look at it.
Jordan Peele's follow-up to his masterly debut Get Out is a terrifying plunge into the double depths of humanity. And hidden in the movie's opening scenes and throughout the film are a stack of clues that cleverly reveal its dramatic twist ending. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers, I'm Jan, and today I'm really excited to peel back and break down for you the many layers of the horrifying and thrilling film Us. We've got tons of Easter eggs you may have missed and hidden secrets to examine, and there will of course be spoilers, so take care if you haven't seen it yet. Let's quickly review what happened at the end of Us so we understand exactly how all the clues in the movie foreshadow and explain the final twist. The Tethered were originally created as part of an experiment to control their above-ground counterparts. When that failed, the doubles were abandoned in their underground world of tunnels. But Red, Adelaide's double, helps the Tethered rise up against the above-ground people, killing many of them and forming a human chain across the land. However, the twist we discover is that the Tethered's leader Red is actually the original Adelaide. In the 1980s fairground scene, young Adelaide encountered her double in a hall of mirrors. Adelaide's double overpowered her and took Adelaide's place with her parents above ground. In the final showdown, present-day Adelaide kills Red, burying the truth about who she really is underground forever. Or at least that's what she thinks, because her son Jason was also in the basement when Red revealed that Adelaide was originally one of the Tethered, and it seems like he may have overheard her secret, which is why he gives her a sort of strange look and pulls down his mask as they drive off in the final scene. So now we've got the ending covered, let's jump back to the movie's opening scenes where Jordan Peele laid clues for everything in the ending and the twist. The movie starts with young Adelaide watching a Hands Across America commercial, which is full of imagery and themes we'll see repeated during the film. The idea of doubles and twins is immediately brought up with the mention of 6 million people and 12 million eyes, the Twin Towers, the repeated letter G's of the Golden Gate Bridge, and the words "From Sea to Shining Sea" accompanying an image of a lighthouse which appears twice, once on the left of the screen and then immediately flipped with a mirror image to the right. And to cap it all, after the promo ends, we see a copy of young Adelaide reflected in the TV screen, sitting next to a white rabbit toy. Now that's intriguing because the advert is a huge clue to the real identity of the Tethered's leader. When young Adelaide is switched with her Tethered counterpart, her Tethered double steals her Michael Jackson Thriller t-shirt and leaves her with only her Hands Across America t-shirt. Over the years she spent growing up underground, Adelaide, who we now call Red, found inspiration in memories from her previous life above ground. Her memory of the 1986 Hands Across America charity event, during which millions of Americans formed a human chain across parts of the country to raise money for the homeless, is something that's been seared into her brain. And so Red takes inspiration from that to organize an act of rebellion where the tethered send a bloody message by rising up, killing their above ground counterparts and recreating that human chain from Hands Across America. The clothes worn by the tethered give their group the feeling of a cult or escaped prisoners, which in a way they are. And Red, who designed these outfits, took inspiration from several classic horror and cultural icons from the time prior to 1986, when she was still above ground. The red workwear jumpsuits and the single gloves worn by the doppelgangers are a nod to Michael Jackson's Thriller video, as well as his custom of donning a glove on just one hand. Their outfits also evoke Michael Myers' overalls in the Halloween movies, and likewise their gloves are a shout out to Freddy Krueger's look in the Nightmare on Elm Street series, a VHS tape of which you can see by the TV set at the start of Peele's film, which is doubly fitting as it's one of the director's favourite horrors. Another of those VHS tapes by the TV is the mid-80s horror film Chud, which hints nicely at how Us will end because, as well as featuring monsters living beneath the streets who eventually emerge above ground, Chud also includes a government cover-up and, interestingly for Peele's movie, people who go missing. By the way, the idea of conspiracies also pops up early on in Us, when Zora says the government uses fluoride in water to control people's minds. Not only is this a pointer to the failed experiment revealed at the end of this movie, but it may also be a little shout out to the movie Dr. Strangelove, especially given Jordan Peele's love of Stanley Kubrick films like The Shining. Another key detail to understand the film's ending is the constant repetition of the number 11. In the very first scene, there's a news and weather promo, all on 7 at 11. There's the prize young Adelaide chooses at the fairground. "I want number 11, she tells her dad. There's the alarm clock that hits 11 minutes past 11 shortly before the Wilsons' doubles turn up and wreak havoc. And those same numbers are on the roof of the ambulance as it drives away at the end of the film. And importantly, a man with a Jeremiah 11:11 sign pops up by the beach in the past and the present. The man with the sign is a harbinger of doom, as you can tell from his biblical verse. Therefore, this is what the Lord says: I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out to me, I will not listen to them. This biblical warning precedes Adelaide's traumatic experiences in both the past and the present. What's intriguing for this movie, though, is that this particular chapter of the Bible is all about how God's people have forgotten their own history, where they come from, and the commitment and promises they made to get where they are. All of which ties in nicely with the way Adelaide tries to bury the memory of what happened in 1986, as she wants to forget how she ended up where she is today. In other words, she's desperately trying to avoid confronting the fact that she's a doppelganger who used violence to replace the original Adelaide, and now she's terrified what consequences her actions back then might have for herself and her family today if she returns to the scene of her original crime. The film's frequently repeated Bible quote is a stark message that goes out to its protagonists and viewers in general, and also, given the double meaning of the film's title, specifically to the US. When Gabe asks his family's doppelgangers, "What are you people?" the question word "what" implies a certain dehumanization, as Gabe doesn't quite see the doubles as human beings. Red's answer, "We're Americans," is unnerving for the Wilsons, who see the strange but familiar beings in front of them as different, not equal to themselves. As a visual double of the number 1, the number 11 perfectly suits the film's imagery and themes of doubling, mirroring, and repetition. But through the ages, the number 11 has also acquired some interesting symbolism, as it can signify transition, excess, peril, and conflict, all of which there's plenty of in this film. And it can also symbolize sin and repentance, which seems very fitting given that this movie suggests that we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves to find the source of our individual and collective problems, rather than constantly be rushing to blame other people or groups for our self-inflicted disasters. That is, we are our own worst enemies. The owl that pops out and frightens young Adelaide at the fair fits in with the murals of trees and wildlife around her, but given the setting as a vision quest with a sign to find yourself, the bird's symbolism is also interesting for the film. In some symbolism, owls are connected to magical forces and the idea of being able to see beyond your immediate reality, something the film seems to implore us to do. And it's also intriguing that symbolically owls embody the duality seen throughout the film, as they can be considered a good or a bad omen, depending on what happens next. Clearly for young Adelaide, it was a bad omen, though things worked out better for her doppelganger who got to experience life above ground. Inside the Hall of Mirrors, young Adelaide starts whistling the tune to the nursery rhyme Itsy Bitsy Spider, but then her clone takes over whistling it too. The nursery rhyme is about a spider climbing up a drain pipe before being flushed down again when it rains, and then when the sun comes out and dries away the rain, the spider is able to finally emerge from below. The lyrics match exactly how young Adelaide's clone comes up to the surface, then drags Adelaide back down below, before returning to the surface to take young Adelaide's place in the world above ground. Years later, Red finally has her moment and comes up to the surface for the untethering, and that final emergence from below by Red is foreshadowed in the scene at the holiday home where present-day Adelaide spots a tiny little spider creeping out from below a bigger toy spider on the coffee table. The cages of rabbits gradually revealed during the film's opening credits are another fascinating detail that point to the film's final twist. Peele moves quickly from an image of young Adelaide's horrified face at seeing her double for the first time and cuts straight to a close-up of a caged rabbit's face, indicating young Adelaide's ultimate fate of being caged underground with the tethered, who like rabbits have been living in tunnels and were used for experiments. The flashback to young Adelaide and her parents at the doctor's after her traumatic Hall of Mirrors experience is another vital clue to the film's body swap twist. Two details are particularly crucial. First, Adelaide has been acting differently to her usual self and she doesn't speak. And secondly, there's her mother's words, "I just want my little girl back." A few scenes later, we learn that the Wilson family's doubles do not speak, which explains why young Adelaide couldn't speak after the fun fair. And the fact that only present-day Adelaide's doppelganger can speak but sounds like someone who hasn't used her vocal cords in an extremely long time is further evidence of the Hall of Mirrors body swap. Young Adelaide's mum didn't realise, but she never did get her little girl back, as the child living with her that day in Santa Cruz was actually her daughter's clone. This hint is echoed in the present day when Adelaide tries to tell her husband Gabe why she feels so uncomfortable on holiday. "I don't feel like myself," she says. But just like young Adelaide's parents, Gabe doesn't know or understand what that really means and replies, "I think you look like yourself." Then there's the way, later during the home invasion, that Red orders Adelaide tether yourself to the table, an act which mirrors how young Adelaide's doppelganger chained her to the bed in the underground tunnels before leaving her there and replacing her above ground. Of course, there are other signs that things are not all they appear to be. For example, in the background here, there's the board game Guess Who. And notice that other game, Magic, is actually turned upside down, much like Adelaide's life has been since the Hall of Mirrors encounter with her double. Peele's film begins by showing us how we like to think of ourselves, the Good Samaritans of the Hands Across America promo, and ends by exposing our shadowy side which we so often prefer to keep hidden both from ourselves and the rest of the world. Essentially, Us is a film about society's hypocrisy, the everyday violence of our privileges and power, as well as issues such as class, race, xenophobia, and general fear of the other, as well as the way so many choose to ignore the ties that bind us and look instead to sow seeds of division, keeping others down in order to raise themselves up, in a constant game of whack-a-mole, a game we see young Adelaide's dad playing as she wanders off, soon to be lost to her parents forever.
Y'all I know there was a lot we gotta unpack with the movie Us. So first, we're just gonna take it one step at a time. We're gonna go back to Get Out. So we see in Get Out, this young brother is trying to be bewitched by Babylon, bewitched by this whore, right? This daughter of the Amitesh family, that all she does is recruit young, strong, charismatic black brothers to take their bodies, take their gifting, take their anointing, and feed them to the beast, feed them to the dragon. Take these brothers to her parents, they meet them and they woo-the-woo, and then they take them down to the basement and they have an auction, a new age auction, not over just us physically being enslaved, but mentally being enslaved. So then they have an auction. They get all these rich elite white folks together and they auction off these different persons. But they don't even talk, y'all. They just do sign language. He just raises them out to him. And then that white person's mind gets implanted into these different molds of these brothers that the daughter of Babylon has recruited, right, through deception and fornication. Y'all gotta hear me. That's why the Most High said, don't stay with your people. Until some of y'all that messed up, I'm not judging, you know, and we're just talking about going forward. Do not fool with these folks, I'm telling you now. Because there's no way for you to fully stand with your people. It makes it very difficult. This is what happened to Solomon when you get with these strange women, especially men. Men have this biggest issue. I ain't bashing our Israelite brothers, but we have the biggest issue with that. A lot of our queens want brothers to come scoop them up. And we as the leaders and the aggressors need to be the initiators. I just got to tell the truth. But when we get with these other nationalities, it messes our minds up, right? You can't lay down with a dog and get up and not have fleas. I just got to tell y'all the truth, because there's some kind of thing about who you sleep with to who your allegiance is with, who your heart is with. Y'all got to hear me, because when you're with these other nationalities, there's a part of you that has to sympathize with their nationality, so you can't fully say, I'm all about black, I'm all about black. And she kind of like, well, what about me, sweetheart? Oh, I love you too, baby. You know, I really love all people, because everybody, you see how a little leaven leavens the whole lump. So fornication is how she deceives these brothers, takes them to the dragon. They operate and pit white supremacy and white Jesus and these white men living in their head. It's crazy, because for the most part in that movie and Get Out, you don't see anything about they taking women's souls and pitting them into, well, you do see with, I think the mother is in the black woman, Gertrude or Georgina, right? But the emphasis on these wealthy white men going into these strong young black bucks' minds and living, that is white Jesus. So we saw that in Get Out, but we see that he scratches at the chair, and he takes the cotton out of the chair and he puts it in his ears. What does that represent? He remembers his history, because the cotton represents our forefathers. His history clouds trust in these white folks. His history clouds the mark of the beast, because when you know that you're an Israelite, when you know that the curses that came upon you were from the hands of your enemies, and America is the daughter of Babylon, and America is Edom, the last ruling empire, the empire that the Most High is going to judge, that they ain't your friend, that they're your enemies, that they seek to destroy and replace your identity, and they want to be who you are. When you know all of that, and know the alligator bait, and know how your people are gunned down, and you know how the wicked find themselves not guilty, when you have that in your brain, it protects you from the mark of the beast, of white supremacy, of trust in America, of trust in NATO, of trust in the European Union, because you already know that they ain't your friend. So you see, he uses the cotton and puts it in his ears to keep her from pinning him in the sunken place, using her privilege. Because the silver spoon represents the privilege and the power and the wealth that the Rothschilds and America and these nations have, that they use to do all these science experiments and testing vaccines. Y'all don't get this stuff. Don't put this stuff in your body or in the body of your kids. Do not trust this stuff. So in Get Out, this brother overcomes, because his conspiracy theory friend, let's go Yoruba, comes to tell him like a prophet. He says, brother, I told you not to go fool with them. Now in the movie Us, we see the same thing. We see this duality of our people being at the bottom and this privilege on the top, but it gets real deep. Now y'all saw the clip. Not just that, family, but we see a swap that took place. Now y'all understand. Now, the whole movie is trying to get you to think who is the hero, who is the villain. This goes back to Jacob and Esau. Initially, our people dressed up to get the birthright, right? We finessed Esau. The word Jacob means supplanter. Now, we know that the Most High had already told Rebekah that Jacob was going to get it from the beginning. But Jacob did not know that. So Jacob is thinking that he's finessing. But in actuality, him finessing was a part of the Most High's plan, because he wanted Jacob to have the blessing. Now, I told y'all a mystery. We don't know which child was supposed to come out first. Now, this stuff gets deep, y'all. We don't know which child was really supposed to come out first, because Jacob is holding on to Esau's heel, almost like, how'd you come out first? Wait, that was supposed to be me. Only the Most High knows, because the Most High does honor the birthright. He does honor the firstborn birthright. So why did he say, I want it on the younger? Because he knew what was going on, the wrestling in Rebekah's womb. Why do I bring this up? Because in the movie Us, we don't know who's the hero and who's the villain, and Jordan Peele masterfully plays off that duality of the people at the bottom being the hero, but the people at the bottom could also be looked at as a government experiment. We look at them wearing all red, we look at them trying to finesse and get to the surface, this cave dwelling people, because they live underground. Y'all gotta understand. So this people, out of them comes a woman that swaps with the real person. and she enjoys that family, she enjoys that privilege, but all she did was finesse, and she was not supposed to be living on the surface. Now, I told y'all, not just that, but we can take it a step further. We don't know if the people at the bottom could represent Israel being oppressed, being subjugated to Tuskegee syphilis studies and all of this manipulation at the bottom, and then they rise to the top because you see they wear the jumpsuits like they're inmates, like they're prisoners, they're convicts. Who are y'all? And they say, we're Americans just like y'all, right? And they say, oh, you're not like us, they're the bottom people, to represent Israel being the world to come, and that the people that were at the bottom, the first shall be last and the last shall be first, that Esau is the end and Jacob is the beginning of the next. So we have this duality in this movie, y'all. It's a lot of layers to it, where we don't know who's the hero and who's the villain, but what we do know is that our people win. Let's go, that we got next. Because what I like to think, y'all, when we look at this, the people that are dwelling in that cleft bottom, all of them wearing the red and that kind of thing, actually represent Esau. Esau that came and swapped and took our identity. Now, we saw what happened to the lead character, I forget her name, right? But when she was a girl, when she was 8 years old and she went to the fair, right? And she goes to the fair and then she goes to this find yourself, right? She's trying to find herself, getting lost in this chaos in America and that kind of thing. And her doppelganger swaps with her. So we see at the end of the movie that the mother was always a doppelganger and she seeks to replace the original. This is Esau, y'all. This is masterfully written. Esau trying to replace our identity. So now what is the point of all this, JB? You know, you went through Get Out, you went through Us. What are you trying? Now we're gonna go back to Get Back to Africa and the Back to Africa theory. What should we do? Now, when we look at Get Out, we see that the mentality is everything. That we looked at Moses, how Moses said that it was an 11 days journey to get to Canaan from Egypt. They could have walked in that thing and been there in 2 weeks, but it turned into a 40-year trip because of their mindsets were still thinking like slaves. And they were taking a slave mindset into a fresh move of the Most High Yah. A lot of our people that, you know, that stuff don't matter. You know, Israel done away with, just be good. If y'all will work hard and stop talking about conspiracies, then America will give you that job. Then if you just work hard, you can move up into society. Now, we know that they're being so disingenuous that it's not even funny. You and me both know, Negro, that this society has been built off the subjugation. The critical race theory-based society of America is entirely constructed to have a haves and a have-nots. From the conception of this country in 1607 and through 1619, slavery and a people being oppressed, your people, Negro, was how this country built their economy. Yes, our people have to be 3 to 4 times better to move up in this society. This has never been the will of the Most High Yah for us to live in that kind of scenario. I'm just gonna tell you, the Most High has always intended for our people to go through what we had to go through. The Most High had to take his belt off. He had to whoop us using America, but he promised to get us back to that land. Now let's go back to getting us back to that land. How should we do it, JB? Well, JB, we know that this is the daughter of Babylon, that Esau is the end of the world, that they're wicked, that they're doing all this wickedness. We need to go back to Africa. Now, y'all think about this now. Do I agree with what you're saying? Absolutely. But we're going to break it down slowly, right? When we say going back to that continent, there's a lot of layers to it. Are you just going to leave your brothers here? Are you just running out of fear? We got to really start examining motive to see where the truth is. Now, this is a conversation, y'all. We might have to go and do some more videos on this conversation. Basically, our people as a whole need to come together and leave and go back to that continent. I'm just gonna keep it straight with you, right? We need to go back to that continent, and then you gonna hear me. I'm gonna straight up tell you. But how we do it is all the Most High. It's all the Most High, and it's all the unity of our people coming together. But it starts with a mindset, because we need to preach this gospel of the kingdom of who we are as a people, that we need to detox from white Jesus in our minds, that we don't need to think of America as our friend, that we need to detox from Babylon spiritually, because what you wouldn't want to happen is you take the stuff that we learn over here that is wickedness, all this, the way we treat one another, and it's subconsciously in you. You go to Africa and say, you saw how they looked at me, you saw how they was doing, and we take a Western American perspective into y'all's promised land. It starts with the spirit. And while you're getting that in your mind, while you're detoxing from white Jesus and placing Yahushua in your mind, You need to be preaching that to your people. We need to spread this history. We need to spread this gospel. That's why I tell y'all, like, comment, share. Get this out to as many people as you know. Show the DNA videos. Show the Bible prophecy videos. Because our people have to be detoxed from the beast. There is a certain number that the Most High is feeling by waking up. Some people call it the 1/3. Waking up our people before Yeshua makes a way for us to get back to that land. When I say that, Yeshua's return is not what a lot of y'all think. Now, I know this is a lot, y'all. Y'all got to bear with me. But understand, the Most High himself through Yahushua said, when John the Baptist came on the scene, that this is the Elijah that y'all are waiting for. Y'all got to hear what I'm saying. Y'all stay with me. I know this is a lot. What the Most High was dropping that nugget was that we can't be sitting back idly expecting the Most High to do everything. Y'all got to hear what I'm saying. Faith without works is dead. It's a mindset. It's when Moses came on the scene, he did a miraculous sign. The waters parted open before they even walked, right? But when Joshua came to lead them into the promised land, the Most High said, keep walking. And as they were walking, when their feet touched the brim of the river Jordan, y'all got to hear what I'm saying. Then the Most High parted it. Now, if faith is an exponent, if faith is supposed to increase over time, because we have the Bible to look to. We have this great cloud of witnesses. We can read about Moses. We can read about Joshua. We can read about Daniel in the lion's den. We can read about the 3 Hebrew boys that the Most High showed up and showed out with. We can read about them. They couldn't read about that back then. So faith is, the Most High is going to require more of us in this season. Y'all understand? So we think that it's just going to come with us just sitting down, not putting in work, not preaching this gospel, not unifying the people, not creating a back to Africa movement where we organize our people. We present a logical claim of reparations just to be a witness against America. That's all we doing it. Because Moses had to go to Pharaoh and say, let the people go and let us go with great substance. So we let them know, this is our claim, this is who we are, this is our culture, this is where we want to be. Y'all can either get with it or the Most High make you get with it. And we come together and make strides to go back to the promised land in faith that the Most High will fight for us, that he will fight all armies that's going to push a red button. See, our people are afraid. I'm just going to tell y'all, and rightfully so. I'm not saying it out of no bitter way, but I'm saying a lot of our people let our fear get in your minds and you make decisions out of the wrong spirit, right? A lot of our people want to sit back and wait because we're really afraid, but you got to deal with that fear. Family, we got to deal with everything that tells us that we don't deserve this earth when what we've been through was the Most High saying, I love you. The fact that you're still here, I have not forgot the promise. I have not forgot what I told Abraham. I have not forgot what I told Moses, that I would get that people back to the land that I swore to their forefathers to give them as it were of the days of heaven on earth. We got to believe the Most High, and we got to be willing to think like that. Like, we need to do everything in our power to preach this history to our people, to come together and make strides to go back to the continent, go back to the promised land, go back to Africa. So now when you look at the movie Get Out and Us, you can look at that as Get Out of the United States. Now, I think in one of those clips, the woman that was going through the nuggets actually said that, how it was a nugget. Now, this represents detoxing from that way of thinking. A lot of the stuff, the way we think is selfish. We think about shiny cars and we think about I need this, that, and the other thing. That's westernized. You don't need all that to be happy. You don't need to live all grandiose like that to have peace. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And we have to detox from thinking like that. Preach that message of family and love and community, and putting our resources together and going back to that land as a family. You have to detox in your minds first. That's where the mark of the beast resides. That's why this American westernized culture is in our minds. We have to get out of the United States, get out of Babylon in our minds, and then prepare to go back to that continent by any means necessary. I'm just gonna tell it straight with y'all. So y'all, this is a conversation. I love to see y'all comments on it. I love to see how y'all feel about the movie and that kind of thing. I totally recommend it because it gets our people to think like kings instead of peasants. Y'all gotta hear me. To think like lords instead of slaves. Instead of thinking like, well, we gotta just wait, well, America, y'all gotta do right by us. At some point, we as a people, I gotta keep it straight with y'all, have to think like we're gonna do it. We're gonna come together. I believe in my people. I believe in us, all of our gifting. The nations have made money off of our greatness. Now, it's time for us to take that greatness and be self-sufficient and to create empire that would eclipse all the worlds that have ever been. You got to think like that. And I know this is a lot for y'all to digest. This is just a conversation, right? All of this is going to be the Most High doing it, family, because the fact that I'm able to tell you this truth is the Most High pouring out his spirit to spread this to the four corners of the earth. 10 years ago, Israelites weren't teaching like this. Our people didn't know the level of history that the Most High, let's go, is pouring out in these last days through Zion Dynasty, through Teo Ministry, through Minister Dante, through We Woke Now, Pastor Kelly. Y'all, so many, the camps IUIC is so many prophets now teaching this history. That's the Most High. So in this era, we need to be thinking like, man, the Most High is moving, and we got to trust that he's with us to get us back to the promised land. So y'all, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope y'all got something out of it. Peace, love, blessings, y'all. If y'all want me to continue to doing different pop culture movie breakdowns and connecting that with the scriptures, y'all drop them down in the comments. I enjoy doing it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. So with that, y'all, peace, love, blessing, and Israelite power to the kings and queens of this earth, the rightful heirs of eternity, all my Israelite brothers and sisters. I love you all from the bottom of my heart, and I pray that the Most High keeps y'all in this season, and that y'all take this stuff to heart, right? So I love you all with the love of the Messiah. Peace, love, blessings, and shalom. All praises.